Hi, I'm Laura.
Hey, I'm Stefan, and you're listening to Attributed, a podcast library by Dreamdata.
The purpose of it is to store and share all the knowledge that we have gathered across Dreamdata employees through our LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, and webinars.
The typical topics you'll find here can be stuff like marketing,
Sales,
B2B ads,
operations,
social selling maybe. Hello, everybody. Today I have with, for the second time, one of my favorite guests so far, which is you, Andrew. You did super well the last time, so you got picked for another round of conversations.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to be here.
It's going to be an interesting topic today because I think both of us likes to just look at numbers and see if marketing hits the numbers that we are expected to do. But I think this thing about also making sure that you actually do memorable marketing things that make a true impression on people. If it hasn't always been, it's becoming even more important now that all of us are competing against the whole world at any given point of time. That's basically the menu that we'll go through today. Why is memorable marketing important? How do you do it? And then a lot of tangible examples of what other companies have done. But before this, Andrew, then maybe for the people who didn't study your LinkedIn page, what's the short introduction to yourself and Paddle, where you're currently at?
Yeah, sure thing. My name's Andrew. I'm based down in the sunny southwest of England, or not so sunny right now. And I serve Paddle as CMO. I've been here a couple of years now. We serve about 4,000 software companies, mostly product-led software companies, by taking care of all of their billing, their tax compliance, all of their ability to take payments, manage fraud, manage chargebacks. And we do that all around the world for them to help them scale internationally. And we also have a Price Intelligently team who are the best pricing strategists in the SaaS space. We have a retention product and a metrics product. And through all of those, we serve about 30,000 businesses, but it's really about 4,000 that we serve with the core billing platform. And yeah, I'm server CMO, so I love the process of learning and doing when it comes to reaching our target customer in a memorable way.
That's a pretty good pitch, Andrew. And not just that's just probably out of pure interest. Then you said you also actually have some pricing experts that people can. Is it like a service function where people can get help with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. They're based over in Boston, but they do work all around the world. And many of the SaaS businesses that are later stage and that you'll know and love probably use our team has advised on their pricing and packaging strategy. So not just pricing, what the price point is, but what is the right value metric for pricing? How does that make sure you have a willingness to pay within your target market? And then the packages. What are the add-ons? What are the main features you're gathering? What's the upsell pathway? And we drive really, really interesting monetization growth by helping people think about their pricing in a more data-driven way.
Oh, very nice. We were kind of looking at consultants for this last year, and I didn't actually know that you guys did that. And the ones we did found were very expensive offers. Let's put it that way. So yeah, check out Paddle's consultancy service there as well. Okay, memorable marketing that makes an impression. Why should people care extra about this, perhaps more now than ever, in your opinion, Andrew?
Well, I think we should always care about this. And if we care about it more right now, it's because our marketing has to go further and do more. We have less time for things that are frivolous. And when I think about the word memorable and when I think about why memorable is important, it's because when something is memorable, it has a few attributes. The first thing is that memorable to me also means that you are able to then explain it and communicate it to someone else. So it's not just it's memorable marketing, but it's the fact that in your mind, you've taken part in that story and can retell it to other people, the rest of your buying group, your CEO, your friend down the pub, whoever it might be. So I think one of the aspects of being memorable is having a story, a proposition, a campaign, whatever it might be, that is so simple and so compelling that it can be retold with the person who heard it once, telling it again with their spin, their angle, their paraphrase. So I think that's the first piece of it. It is able to be communicated beyond. Yeah. And then the second piece, which is like really obvious, is in marketing, we see in every study that when you have higher aided recall or unaided recall of a brand, you see better conversion rates, better win rates, better responses to all of your direct response advertising and marketing. by delivering marketing that is memorable, you are increasing the awareness in your target market. And we'll come back to the who, because I think it's very important here. It's memorable to a certain group of people, not maybe to everyone. But once you're able to do that and raise brand awareness within your target market, then all of your other marketing becomes more effective.
Yeah, really good point. I think I can't remember if it was part of the benchmarks you guys just put out together with Kyle, but I saw somewhere at least on LinkedIn that like customer acquisition costs continue to go up for basically any company. And the reason for that, at least as far as I understood it, is that all of us are starting to rely on the same channels: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, of course, the same kind of influencers, podcasts, etc. And then market mechanisms to just keep driving that price up. So if it's becoming more and more expensive to show your ad in front of a person, if you show low quality, not memorable, very generic stuff, it's going to become very, very expensive for you to acquire new customers, quite simply.
Yep, absolutely. It goes further than that, though. In all of our most recent studies, actually in the pricing team, willingness to pay is also going down or flat in today's market. So it's not even that, you've got a competition when you're kind of at the top of the funnel trying to buy audience attention from the target market, all the way through to when they hit that pricing page or engaging in a sales conversation. Across most major sectors, willingness to pay is stagnant or decreasing because of the competition you're talking about. So there's competition at the top of the funnel. There's also competition at the bottom of the funnel.
That's a little bit frightening as well, just for putting stuff out there, and then it can actually be hurting the sales team afterwards and how much they can charge for things.
Of course, because stronger awareness lines up with a higher willingness to pay.
Yeah.
So generally, willingness to pay is stagnant or going down. But absolutely, if you are the most known leader, the highest mind share in that market, then you usually have an ability, unless you're known for low prices, you have an ability to charge a premium. So yeah, these things are all interconnected. And as we said at the top, the most important thing is it comes down to who. If we poll everybody on this audience right now for their memorable marketing, things they've experienced, we'd all come up with different examples, because what's memorable to us personally in our own consumer world or business-wise in our roles will be different, because we are in different target market groups with different things at different times. And so I think the most important thing here is, are we reaching the right people with a memorable story?
Yeah, I think something you said last time we spoke as well, even thinking about this as in terms of helping the outbound team whenever they start picking up the phone or sending cold messages to people that they've not spoken with before. If that marketing layer has come on top, where like you've actually produced some really appealing marketing that has emotionally attracted these ideal customer personas, then if somebody were to call up these people, the likelihood of them giving them that extra 20 or 30 seconds to hear them out will go up quite significantly.
Yeah, it will go up significantly. And also, I believe that there is only a certain amount we can do to influence the point at which people are ready to buy a B2B product. Yeah. What our job is to make sure we're in their awareness, that they remember us from the last interaction, or we're there regularly in front of them, so that when they become ready to buy, we're high up their list of options and we're someone that they engage with fast. Because that's when you see high intent leads go through the funnel super fast and close at a higher rate, because that person has already pre-decided that they are ready and in market for what you are selling them, or what they're trying to buy. So yeah, I do think it's really interesting how this plays out in the numbers, but it's not just about making sure that everything we do is more effective. It's also about being there ready when that person has decided that they are ready.
Yeah, like you also avoid probably that kind of that very rational buyer that will start making a list of 5 to 10 vendors that he or she needs to talk with, because they've already built like an affection for your company. I was actually, as I was making my examples of like memorable examples, I would remember when I first time signed up to a professional SEO tool. I just went straight to, it was called SEO Moz, or later just Moz back then, because I've been watching Rand Fishkin's, I don't know if you've seen that kind of whiteboard, I think Whiteboard Fridays or something like that. I've been watching that for like 6 to 12 months. And then when I felt, okay, now we actually have a need and a budget for this solution, I just went straight in there, signed up, no competition at all, just because I've been consuming all that value that Moss and Rand had just been sharing for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And different people listening to this will be in different situations. There'll be people who are battling in the preference. So they want to be at the top of the list when someone already they know they've got a problem, they know the solutions out there, and you just want to be at the bottom, you want to be at the top of that list. There's also people here who people understand the problem, but they're not solution aware. And so you want to be actually creating that list of options for solutions for that target buyer. But there's also another group on this call, and we all have it in some of our segments where they're not even problem aware. And therefore, the job of our memorable marketing is to help them understand there's a problem even before they start getting to a list of solutions, and even before you start getting to a list of preferences with your solution being at the top of that list. If I take Paddle as an example, if you are a international-based bootstrapper or seed-funded PLG software founder, product-led software founder, Paddle is probably very much on your consideration. You'll know us amongst the other options there, and we'll probably have a degree of preference with the largest MOR, merchant of record, that serves that market. However, if you're a sales-led software founder in the US, the problems we solve are much further down the list, because it's really when you sell into lots of territories that Paddle becomes really important, and when you have a strong checkout, self-serve, product-led motion, that we become really important. So in that situation, particularly if you're in a large domestic economy like the US or the UK, we have to educate you on the problem of international tax compliance as one of the many things we solve before we can educate you on the solution. And so I think we can apply these principles of being memorable in our marketing interactions to all of those areas, not just to where we're trying to gain preference over other known solutions.
If you were to advise the people on how to do the diagnostics of should we spend our time on the problem awareness, or is it the solution awareness, or is it the differentiation within the solutions available? How would one go about knowing, like, just as a rule of thumb, where to look first?
Yeah, so I mean, I love going straight to the field teams, the sales teams, the BDRs to get that information if you've got a sales organization. If you don't, then going into your analytics of sourcing, going into what keywords people are looking at before they come to your site, and what content they're finding when they get there. And so if you are constantly in the sales environment having what are you like compared to X as the first conversation, then there's a solution awareness, and it's a battle of preference.
Yeah.
Whereas if the conversation is something that's much more ethereal or abstract, or is a problem that's one of the things you solve but not the complete things you solve, or it's a problem that's very much stated in the customer's language and actually doesn't really make loads of sense of how you proclaim it on your website, because you're still learning what the customers say, or the problem is immature, then that's when you've got a philosophical or problem-based problem to solve before you get to what the solutions are. So I think those conversations are the perfect place to go to find out whether you're actually educating on a problem, or educating on a solution, or educating on you. And you can think about this as why change, why now, why Paddle, why change, why now, why Dreamdata, and think about it in those steps.
I think that's like profound, good advice for any people. And I think particularly like if you're just starting out a new business where you feel like it's a new area, maybe it's creating awareness that this problem exists. I imagine in your industry, there's probably some competition as well. So it's more about showing up in front of the right people. First check that, and then also at the right time, making sure that they then consider you when they're out there buying as well.
Yep, totally.
Okay, if we switch chapters, let's try to come up with some rule of thumbs of how do you make marketing memorable. And it's probably, sure, there's some very really sound theories behind this, but I think just recall back on like my own experience. I think there's like two components that I've noticed. That one is that if there's some sort of emotional appeal to me, and kind of can I see myself in what they're trying to convey here, or is this funny, interesting, that I have to kind of study what's it about? And then kind of if you teach me something, then I'm really grateful. As like with the Whiteboard Fridays, I've been consuming knowledge for a very long time, so now I almost feel like I owe you trying out whatever your service is. A bit probably the same with your, like, before you guys acquired Profitable, and I've also been consuming a lot of Patrick Campbell's knowledge that he put out on the blog. Yep. So if I were to look for some pricing tool, that would probably be the first place I start as well. So what did I say? Emotional appeal, or like funny, interesting, or like teach me something. What are the things that comes to mind for you about how marketing becomes memorable? Yeah, so I think those examples you've used and those words you've used, I would completely agree with. And I don't have a perfect framework for this, but other things I think about is, it is trying to break down what makes something resonate.
again, it's resonate to a specific target audience. So I think, you talked about education, you talked about entertainment. Both of those I completely agree with. Other things we could put in there would be things like simplify, something that helps, or reframe, something that helps a target buyer simplify or reframe the complex problem or the way they're looking at a problem. That could be really memorable. Where it's part of education, right? Where you give me a mental model or a way of looking at this thing that helps me in my day job, helps me look at the problem, helps me simplify, helps me communicate. So I think simplify, reframe are good words. I think there's something in connection and relationship. There's some of the most memorable marketing I've experienced is where it's actually not a campaign or an ad or something else. It's a relationship that's being built with me. I love the fact that many SaaS tools now, I know it's completely automated. I'm not a fool, but how the founder or one of the leadership team instantly as part of that onboarding journey, which suddenly makes it much more memorable experience than if I was just trying an app that I've downloaded. So connection, I think, is something. And then, all of these come together into creating that kind of that wow moment where, one way we sometimes talk about it at Paddle is we want to create WTF moments for our customers and our prospects. We want to create this moment where there's a bit of a sit back of like, wow, was that for me? Do they know what my problem is? How are they talking in my language? Or there's a element there that's genuinely impressive in some creative way. So I think all of those words are good words to describe what we're trying to achieve here, which is being memorable.
And I think we can already start doing an honorable mention to your campaign where you sent an invoice to space. What was it you actually you pulled off there?
Yeah, I mean, we could use that as an example, and there are loads of examples. I've got some from your marketing. We've got examples from marketing across the web that we can start digging about. The space one. Let's just break down the parts of this in its component parts. So firstly, I think it's really important that you build this from customer insights. You really understand the target customer. Secondly, that you're able to reach that target customer in an interesting way. Thirdly, you're able to engage them, that they are thinking and acting different as a result. Fourthly, that it leads very clearly to a product truth, something that you're different, differentiation, something you're different for. And then fifthly, it drives some kind of objective. So take that space campaign, we sent a device into space, Bianca and the team led this, and we basically saw a conversion. We saw a payment in space, videoed it with 4K cameras, and then did a nice cut video of it. We also sent ABM, gifts and other things to a lot of target accounts. Now, if we break it down, we understood the customer because all the software founders I know have an obsession with space, with going to the moon, with the whole whether it's colonizing Mars or something else. There's something that's fascinating and awe-inspiring about space. So we understand the customer. We also know that they want to take their software company from here to beyond the horizon.
Yeah.
Secondly, reaching the customer. We had a bunch of different ways we could reach that customer in an interesting way across multiple different channels. Thirdly, we had a way of ensuring that they were thinking differently about our solution, but also they had a way to act. There was a follow-up that was closer to our product sell, a Forrester webinar, a sales demo, a further conversation about internationalization. Fourthly, this wasn't just kind of a little social vid that was created and shared. It linked so clearly down to our product value proposition. So we help product-led software companies sell everywhere in the world. So we basically said, we've solved tax compliance globally. Now let's solve it for the ISS. There was a very clear, slightly funny link back to our value proposition. And then finally, we had clear objectives we were driving in terms of target account awareness and then pipeline off the back. So those are the 5 things that I think are really important. And we can use that lens on any of the other different campaigns and messages we start to look at now.
I think it's a really good point also to remember to drive across the point of what is that this company does. So if you could have made exactly the same thing and it would be super interesting to look at, but there would be close to no business outcomes if you didn't show what it is or like say what it is that you do as well.
Yeah, 100%.
How do you, maybe there's a little bit of a sidetrack, but how do you inspire your team members to literally think that much out of the box, out of this planet I think it's such an important thing in marketing that we actually dare and we inspire each other to let's not just do a copy of what we did before, but let's try to come up with what you call the WTF moment.
Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be space for it. And, there's a whole bunch of things that I've done in this business and in previous ones that also haven't worked. And that might have not worked because we didn't get enough team input or didn't have enough customer insight. We didn't execute it properly. It might have just not worked because all of those things were generally right, but it just didn't resonate in the way we wanted it to. And so I think, firstly, making sure there is a bit of space for this type of conversation. Now, when I think about space, I'm meaning in your budget, in team meetings. We don't actually do it at the moment, but there was a team meeting that we were running. I think it was Bianca can hold me to account. I think it was every couple of weeks, which was with the purpose of bringing an idea, and everyone from different teams across marketing would critique, add on to it, develop it through multiple different lenses. Could we do it? How much would it cost? What could the impact be, etc.? But it was largely a creative meeting. So giving that space, it might be as simple as you booking half an hour on a Friday with your team, and the goal is to come up with something that matches all of these different lenses, ticks all of these boxes, but goes beyond what you're doing. It means you need to create that space in your budget too. And so you need to work with your leadership team to know that you've got the permission. And it might be 5% or 10% of your budget to try this stuff, but there's something there in your budget that has the ability to go and do this stuff outside of your run the business demand engine. And so those are two things I think about: the calendar and the budget.
I think that's super valuable. And like, if you don't do this, you're going to look like everybody else. And then all customer acquisition is going to be crazy expensive because you have to brute force your way through everything. Whereas if those quirky ideas are executed in a good way, that will make anything a lot easier for you.
100%. If you don't invest in brand in these ways, you'll pay the price in customer acquisition cost for every quarter for now to the future of the company. And so it is about making sure you're justifying that in part of your rhythm.
It's like a tax you pay forever if you don't get marketing right.
Yep, 100%.
All right. Should we go into sharing some of the memorable things that comes to mind for us? I tagged you in a post I did earlier today, but just that was kind of, there's the first watch that they used for the first space landing. I think it was Apollo 11 was an Omega Speedmaster watch. And that one single story they have been milking for, I don't know, is it 50 years now? That was Buzz Aldrin, which was the second guy to set foot on the moon, because the first guy forgot it. Was called Armstrong something. He forgot it, but the second guy remembered the watch, and that one a truly memorable moment for all of humanity. They had managed to squeeze in their watch, and then if you go search for a moon watch, you'll continuously see that watch appearing everywhere. And I don't know who got that idea, but some marketer at Omega really needs a clap on his or her shoulder.
Yep, 100%. I love that example. Shall I give another one?
Yeah, go. Then I'll take one after that.
Cool. Again, let's think of that the piece that I think often gets missed when we're talking about B2B and creativity and merging those together is how you can do something really creative that also locks back to your core product value proposition. So one of the examples, I'll just post it in the chat now, is Wistia's campaign 1-10-100. And so what they did here, so Wistia, I'm sure many of us know them, video streaming, video archives for web. And one of the things that they did, and this is a series that's on their site, I posted the link, is they set a challenge to come up with an ad that could be produced in £1,000, £10,000, dollars, $1,000, $10,000, and $100,000, and then compare the results. And so if you think about their audience, these are video people, web people, creatives who on a daily basis will be faced with, do I make this $1,000 bet or a $100,000 bet or a $10,000? What's the difference? What's the bang for the buck trade-off? And so it's educating. Not many people have done that. Well, I don't know anyone else who's done that comparison of 3 levels of production budget on the same idea, right? Same idea done in 3 different ways. I don't think many people have laid out that comparison. I also think that it's really entertaining. It's funny. The way they've executed it is really well. And it also locks not just in terms of talking to video producers, but it's then distributed on their own product. So I think that's a great example of ticking a whole bunch of these boxes in showing the product value proposition in a really memorable way.
I didn't know that one. That is a super good demonstration of you. Also, you show the craft of how to do something super scrappy or something super expensive. There's like a product-led marketing trick that I recall from Slack, where I don't know if they still do it, but they, for a period at least, they used to usage-based refund companies every month where they haven't used all their seats. So every month you'll get a mail with like, here's $1 or $5 back because your company didn't use the seats that you're paying for. And I don't even know if they thought about this as a marketing tactic. They probably did, knowing Bill, but like it's also kind of like they're building up some goodwill or some generosity that we owe Slack, because they refund us money that we've already said that we're going to pay them. We get this mail saying like, here's your money back. And I don't know why, maybe it's the generosity component in this very capitalistic world that makes it stand out. I don't know the metrics of whether actually the ROI was there, but from a marketing standpoint, I still to this day have not seen anybody proactively refund me money anywhere on the internet. So like for me, that's definitely also a WTF moment, that like some companies actually send you money back if you don't use the product that you have agreed to pay for.
Yeah, totally. Love it. You want me to go again next, or you've got another one?
Yes, pick one and then I'll join in afterwards.
Okay, cool. So on our Protect the Hustle podcast, I interviewed Udi, who is now chief evangelist, was the CMO at Gong, about their Super Bowl ads. So I'll paste a link here for anyone who wants to go and read that and dive in a bit more depth. But, you know, it's pretty rare. It's getting more regular, but it's pretty rare to have that level of consumer brand exposure. You know, major consumer event. Most of the ads normally would be Pepsi, would be Nike, would be, you know, the names you'd recognize outside of work, not just inside of work. And their Super Bowl ads are really interesting. So if you can go and watch on YouTube, actually, I'll paste the link from the 2021 one, which was the first one they did. And, it's just super interesting to see how they executed it. So, there was a bunch of thinking and data behind the scenes on how many of their chief revenue officers, heads of sales that would be watching the Super Bowl. But if you watch the creative, the very first frame of the ad is a desk. And on the top of the desk, there's a label that says Vice President of Sales. So immediately, from the very first millisecond of that ad, as it comes on screen, you know it's for a Vice President of Sales. So if it's you, it doesn't matter if you might be wanting to go and get a coffee or fill up your beer. From that very first millisecond, you know this ad's for you, and it captures your attention if you're the target market. Super interesting. And so then you watch the 30-second spots, and it goes and unpacks the data-driven model, why it works in the remote world, why Gong is solving this problem. But I just love the way that they went at it with data. And Udi goes and talks in great depth on our podcast and others about this, how they executed the creative, and then what the results were as an example. So again, locked into a target customer, engaged them instantly, and unpacked the product value proposition in a really creative way to reach their audience.
That's really nice. I think it was him, Udi, saying, I don't know if he invented the quote, but he said, different is better than better.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Yes.
Such a brilliant quote for me, because like either you compete in these, like, I don't know if you have competed these car cards where it's kind of, 500 kilometers per hour, 501 kilometers per hour. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of competed against these inches all the time. Whereas if you stand out and truly are very different than the others, then you don't have to have all the features on that car card because people have much more love for what you do because you're so different than the others.
Yeah, totally agreed. Go on, you show me another one.
I did. You joined in on this conversation. I think you commented on last week when I was talking to the guys from Clitara, who have just recently started sponsoring a League One football stadium in the UK, which like they're a SaaS company with 80-ish employees, and like you would think they should be doing the classical Google search, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, etc., to drive their go-to-market. But they have decided to spend like a 5-year contract on a stadium sponsorship, allowing them to like deeply engage with like the community around Cambridge. And I think to quote him, he said like there's like 5,000 companies that are relevant to Clitara around the Cambridge municipality, and the way that he will gonna be like doing the justification of spending money on these are like how many deals do we get from the Cambridge area over time from investing in the stadium. When you start thinking about it, it's kind of he can take the VIPs from the Cambridge areas to these football games, give them a free dinner or a free pint and have a good time with them without asking anything of them. And because football is such a big thing, I think that's correct to say, in the UK, there's so much attention being paid to the medias, by the medias to this move. And that kind of like, because I look at SaaS companies all the time, and 99 out of 100 just go by the regular channels that we talked about. And suddenly there's this stadium sponsorship. And he said like they also like the amount of media that they have gained from this is like uncomparable to anything that they've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because like one League One football club has 4 or 5 journalists still following them, and they need to come up with some sort of story to kind of fill the papers with new stuff, and a new stadium sponsorship is stuff you can write about in national media or in Sky Sports or wherever they're writing it. So like hats off for that move from me.
Love it. And so let's stay on the same theme. And I was just going back and finding Laura's ad in Times Square, which I thought was a great example of something similar, of showing up where people don't think you should show up. And so I think she interviewed you in Times Square and spent $500 on an ad in one of the big digital billboards, and you didn't know what was going on. And then at the point where it said, the ad came up, I think it says something like, our CMO wanted to spend this money on online advertising instead. And then that video she posted and got loads of traction from it. I think that was another really good example, because, very creative, very cost effective, what was actually done, and really resonated with people. It also ties back to your product value proposition, right? In terms of dealing with attribution, dealing with where you should be spending money. I just love the way it ticked all of those boxes as well.
That went surprisingly well. And I think that is also kind of, there's a culture thing here also, establishing like, don't be afraid. Like, if it doesn't cost a lot of money, just like, and the employees have a drive for doing something, just get out of their way and let them try things out. And then like you can rationalize afterwards why it works, but it's also about creating an environment why, like, just letting the employees try things out. I think one component here is also that, so the $500 that covered I can't remember, it's like 30 seconds or 1 minute per hour for 24 hours. So it practically might be just me and Laura who actually saw it on Times Square. But said also is kind of, how do you reach the right audience afterwards about it? So we did something, spent $500, created content, but then the whole redistribution on LinkedIn was actually what made those $500 translate into awareness amongst the people that we want to be aware about our company. So it's, if you can spend whatever money on the idea, but you need to figure out the distribution component as well. Like, how does this content end up actually reaching the people that we wanted to reach afterwards?
Yep, absolutely.
There's a bunch of examples about educating me. I think works really well for me. There's like a marketing podcast in Denmark that is run by 2 of my friends. It's called Marketing Brief or something like that, where for 10 minutes, they just discuss the latest topic in marketing. And I've consumed 300, 400 episodes of that. And the one guy runs an advertising agency and the other guy runs like some SaaS company. I owe them so much because I've consumed so much of their knowledge through these small snippets of 10 minutes. Gary Vaynerchuk is like on a large scale, also somebody that I've been listening to for probably 10 years. I've been consuming his advices completely for free. Once or twice, I think I've bought a T-shirt with one of his quotes, but that's all the money he's gotten from me. Patrick Campbell is another example of like the quality of the blog post that Profitwell has on their blog is like through the roof. So I think for any business, if you have a superior knowledge about any kind of topic, make sure you let the world know whether you're good at voice or video or text. Figure that out, but make sure that the knowledge you have inside your brain actually is accessible for people on the outside.
100%. And I love the fact that we're showing examples here that go from really small, cheap examples all the way to massive executions like Super Bowl, because it's too easy for us all to point to the big ones. It's too, I don't think we've mentioned any consumer ones yet, right? We could talk about the consumer ones that are mind-blowing, but I think it's lovely that we break this right down into things that people can do today. Because just getting on a video and educating people about something on your industry that matters might be the place you start with this, because often this is a journey. It's not one idea. It's about pulling a thread and learning what resonates and learning what works in order to then explore new opportunities and ideas.
I'll give you one very expensive example and then a very relatively cheap example. One thing I was thinking about when I was preparing for this was that this explosion of Saudi football, like getting the Ronaldos, etc., to play down there, and that's very expensive. But The Saudi league is also now in what used to be FIFA, but it's like FC24 now. You can play that league. I see kids on the streets of Copenhagen wearing those yellow Ronaldo t-shirts now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a football fan in the world that doesn't know that Ronaldo is now playing in the Saudi league.
Yeah.
So like, I think here they haven't figured out what is the value proposition we want to get across, but they have found some really, really strong mediums for saying something where like, we are on the map, we're Saudi Arabia, and people play football here.
Yep. And, you know, if I think about those massive executions in a B2B context, you know, one of the brands that we've got to talk about here is MailChimp. You know, Mark DeCristina and the team there, you know, now owned by Intuit, but as they rise as an independent company as well, just consistently executed on amazing ideas. I think about the knitted monkeys, the knitted chimps they used to send out to people. They did a great partnership with Vice. I think one of the ones that stands out most is when they did, I think it's called the autocorrect ad or mispronounced ad. So they went back into kind of some of the cultural background of where MailChimp had been previously, and it was mispronounced in a serial podcast, which had massive exposure, particularly in the US. And so they then went, and let me find the ad agency's summary of this. It's with Droga 5, I think. They went and then they created mispronounced companies, so versions of MailChimp that were not MailChimp. So they had Whale Synth and Mail Shrimp and Jail Blimp and Kale Limp, and these were all films and apps and websites that you Googled for when you learnt about them, and then the top ad on Google would say, "Do you mean MailChimp?" And it just got shared all over the place. And what it was trying to do, again, if you think about target customer, they were trying to increase their audience and customer base within creative professionals, people who run small creative businesses, whether that's physical products, whether that's software, whether it's design, etc. And that's what they're trying to do with their email marketing software. And it hit all of these areas of cultural relevance. Whether you were into music, they had a Whale Synth audio creator that got covered by Pitchfork and Rolling Stone. Whether you're all over the place, we won't go into them, but I just thought it was incredibly impressive how they managed to dig into all of these different cultural nuances and create real brand resonance. But the reaction to a lot of it was actually people searching for them to find out what it was, and then finding it was MailChimp afterwards. So it was a real surprise that came through it too.
The level of creativity some people display is just really impressive. The one I did, the cheaper version I wanted to mention before, was actually the first time I really became aware about the brand Paddle was actually at SaaStr in 2022. You guys rented a boat there, where I think at 5 p.m. in the afternoon or something, you could go on a 2-hour boat trip, and you could hear the whispering on the floors at SaaStr where people, "I want to join the paddle boat."
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to squeeze myself on there, but spending 2 hours on a boat on a cruise in Barcelona, everybody wants to do that. And it's facilitating that you have a good time because there was a few beers and you can hang out with other SaaS people. And I'll probably never forget that I sailed around in a boat in Barcelona for 2 hours, just free of charge, just having a good time there.
Yeah, and we've made that now a thing at many of the conferences we go to. So we've done a boat in Dublin. I think whether it's Austin or San Francisco, we've definitely done a boat over there as well. And every time at those conferences, we now get people coming up to the booth and suggesting that we do paddle boarding to to match up with paddle. And I'm thinking there's nowhere I'd less like to paddle than through the middle of Dublin. But yeah, I think the boat's a much safer option.
Yeah. And then an even cheaper version of this is that we've started to organize runs on the days of the conferences we've been attending. So I've been at SaaStr in San Francisco in September. We had close to 100 people who signed up to do a run before the SaaStr conference or something like that. And all it was a LinkedIn event. And the SaaStr social profiles were kind enough to promote it. And it was just go for a run. We'll meet up there. We'll run. That's it. So I think it's really about finding, keeping a radar up for where are your ideal personas present, and thinking about how can we something within the budget range that we have available that will be different than what other people are doing.
100%. And then there are, there's people who can go even further than just a creative ad or meetup or experience. and then create a campaign that becomes a platform. So 2 examples of this, one small one from us, one big one from HubSpot. I love what HubSpot have done with the podcast network. So rather than just going and advertising on podcasts, they've now become a distribution and funding platform for podcast creators. I think it's so compelling. So, they've signed up a whole bunch of really, really cool podcasts that now are part of their program. And, it's something you want to be part of. And so not only are they just advertising on other people's podcasts, they are the host, they are the network. And if I was starting a new podcast and I was an independent or a marketer at a small company or whatever it might be, someone with a small audience building it, I'd definitely go to them to be my platform because they help with distribution. They link between all the different podcasts. They have a massive audience. They can drive my way. There's a monetization trade-off. So I think that platform play is just so impressive. I don't know, on a very small level, although it's building now. One of the things we did last year in the second half of the year was run what we call the AI Launchpad. So we serve, launch stage onwards software founders. And so we just put up a cash prize from our marketing budget to invite SaaS founders, new founders who had not yet launched, to come and be part of a 6-week program where we had Patrick Campbell and Christian Owens and Nathan Latka and a bunch of other people doing education on product market fit and finding your customer and how you price and how you build your tech stack. And we had over 100 applications. I think we accepted 60, 30 of them finished the entire program. We had an awards ceremony where we gave out awards for the best products that had launched. And, half of them went live on Paddle. We did not make it a requirement that they'd use Paddle as their core billing platform, but over half of them chose it. That is a campaign. It's a platform that people are building their own business from and promoting us in the way. But it's something that we are now getting responses. Every few weeks, I get a ping from a VC or a soon-to-be SaaS founder saying, when are you running the next one? I want to be part of it. And so that idea of a platform is something that people can build on top of, but also has its own energy and momentum. You don't have to keep stimulating it with budget. So Tarshan, who ran that, and KP is just joining us to continue scaling that. I've just got a really critical role there of building out that platform for the future.
I think one of the things that I'll take with me today is kind of remember that how do you get kind of that link into what it is your product does. So we're not just having fun and doing memorable creatives, but there's a link to how this becomes business results later down the funnel, like 6 months, 12 months, 24 months from now. Then there needs to be this link of a translation from memorable stuff to your company at some point.
Yep. But when we think about measurement, I think it's really important that we don't just put an op goal on it and make that the only measurement, or that we don't just put a brand awareness goal on it. I think we have to hold ourselves to understand what the real purpose is, but also to be open that there might be multiple purposes. I don't think it's a bad thing if you're trying to drive a couple of different outcomes. And so, if we think about the MailChimp work, when I spoke to Christina about this, yes, they got huge audience as a result, huge traffic as a result, search impressions as a result, all the brand metrics, but they see in their core business data that people have engaged with their kind of MailChimp Studios content on their way through the journey. They're twice as likely to convert to paid, and their basket size will be twice as big when they do. And so I think you have to be open-minded about the different measurements here. And in the early days, it might be as simple as getting that first touch with your audience. That space campaign I mentioned, it had a pretty significant influenced pipeline number, millions of dollars. But it also helped us break into accounts that we'd never had responses from before. And so the ability to open up an engagement with people who had never previously responded to us was one of the core bits of value.
I think that's what you have to remember about marketing. No matter how well you do it, you have to get in a lot of touches there, and a really creative, good marketing campaign can be a great first touch that kind of gets the door open, and then you kind of need to keep massaging them, and then you can be rational afterwards. But something needs to establish that first point of a wow, or whatever we want to call it.
100%.
Okay, Andrew, are there any last genius examples that you feel that you have not gotten across?
Can I do the opposite and say one that's memorable, but I don't think it's for a good reason?
Yeah.
I know some of the people at this company and I love them. I thought this was so funny when it came out, and I had no idea why it was done or why it worked. If you haven't seen this one, it was done by a big ad agency in London, AMV BBDO, for Thunderhead, which are like a cross-channel, automation solution. And it's a Viking. They've conceptualized their product as this big Nordic man who's tattooed with big muscles, who in the first cut of this that went live, the car buyer they were selling to was suckling on the nipple of this Viking, which was meant to articulate the data that they were giving to feed this person. And they very quickly, based on feedback, did a new cut where I can't exactly remember what's happening, but something else is happening rather than that. But they were showing this I remember at Cannes Film Festival, at the Ad Fest, they had Vikings there you could go and meet and have photos with. Have a watch of it, see what you think. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. Didn't really understand it, but it certainly was memorable.
That's funny. That made me think about that Volvo ad where it's Van Damme that is like standing between, like in a, what's it called in English, where you spread your legs?
Do the splits.
Yeah, you do the splits between two trucks. But what it do, that ad, like you see the Volvo truck, speaking to the point earlier that like, you need to get across what is it you like. It's Volvo trucks, but then it's Van Damme standing on top of these Volvo trucks. Wonderful. Okay, Andrew, what is if people want to speak more with you or try out Paddle or one of your sub services, what's the best path here?
Yeah, jump on paddle.com. We're on LinkedIn Live. Grab me on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. I'd love to connect with you too. We just love helping software leaders, software founders build their businesses. So if there's anything we can do to help, we will. I'll hook you up with one of my colleagues if they're best placed to serve you. But yeah, really connect on LinkedIn and go to paddle.com to find out more, and we'd love to connect.
Fantastic. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time again. It's been like a true pleasure once more hearing also your examples. So yeah, maybe we'll send you another invite later this year to join for another round. But thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Total pleasure. Thanks so much, Stefan. I look forward to doing it again sometime.
We hope you like listening to us. Subscribe to our podcast and the ones that we have been guests on.
And if you have any feedback for us, just do let us know. And should there be a guest that you think we should be talking to, then pitch us.
We're looking forward to seeing you.